The Dominion fleet drifted through the silent void, its warships casting long shadows over the lifeless surface of Charon IV. The planet had been abandoned for decades, its human settlers wiped out when Earth fell silent. A routine sweep, nothing more. Another dead world to add to the Dominion's ever-growing empire. Commander Zalvorin leaned forward in his command chair, eyes narrowing at the desolate landscape on the view screen. "Scan for any remaining human technology," he ordered. "If there's anything worth salvaging, claim it. If not, glass the surface and mark it for colonization." The crew obeyed without hesitation. The Dominion had crushed humanity long ago. The few stragglers who had survived their conquest were nothing more than scavengers and outlaws. Charon IV was supposed to be just another graveyard. But as the fleet drifted closer, something changed. "Sir, I'm detecting." The sensor officer stopped mid-sentence, staring in confusion at his console. "Unidentified signals. Weak, but they're coming from multiple locations across the ruins." Zalvorin frowned. "Survivors." The officer hesitated. "I don't know, sir. It doesn't make sense. These signals, they're old. Decades old." A cold weight settled in Zalvorin's gut. "Play them." Static filled the bridge. Then, through the interference, a voice emerged. Calm, unwavering, and impossibly human. "Saul's Legion still holds the line." Silence gripped the bridge. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. Zalvorin's mandibles clicked together in frustration. A malfunction, or an automated transmission left behind. The sensor officer swallowed. "Sir, it just changed." The voice repeated, stronger now. "Saul's Legion still holds the line." Then the signal repeated again. But this time, it ended with something new. "And we see you." An alarm blared across the bridge. Red lights flashed as warning symbols filled the holoscreens. The fleet's electronic systems, flawless Dominion technology, flickered and glitched. A low, droning sound echoed through the hulls of the warships, like a distant march of unseen soldiers. "Report," Zalvorin barked. The comms officer paled. "Sir, we're being jammed. All Dominion frequencies, comms, targeting systems, even our life support diagnostics. It's all being disrupted." Zalvorin rose to his feet, rage boiling in his chest. "Impossible. There is no one left to." Then the first ship went dark. The Veilborn, a Dominion destroyer hovering at the fleet's flank, suddenly lost all power. Its lights flickered, then died. The engine sputtered out. A moment later, it began drifting, lifeless, into the void. Then another ship went dark, and another. On the surface of Charon IV, deep within the ruins, hidden eyes watched the fleet's panic unfold. In the darkness of an underground command center, figures moved with methodical precision, issuing silent commands to systems long thought dead. A soldier in battered, decades-old armor stepped forward, his helmet reflecting the dim glow of ancient monitors. He watched as Dominion ships fell into chaos, one by one. Then, slowly, he reached down and activated a transmission. "Saul's Legion still holds the line." And the war began again. The Dominion dropships pierced through Charon IV's scorched atmosphere, their hulls glowing from the heat of re-entry. Captain Vorkesh stood in the lead craft, his 6 clawed fingers gripping the overhead rail. He had commanded dozens of planetary invasions, crushed human resistance on countless worlds, and never once hesitated. Humanity was broken, its remnants scattered, weak, and unorganized. This would be no different. "Captain," a comms officer called. "We're approaching the ruins of the human settlement. Still no signs of active defenses." Vorkesh clicked his mandibles in annoyance. Then why did an entire fleet go dark? No one had an answer. Through the cockpit window, the surface of Charon IV stretched beneath them, a skeletal wasteland of collapsed buildings, rusting war machines, and the shattered remains of a forgotten war. There were no signs of life. The only movement came from the swirling dust storms that slithered through the ruins like restless spirits. The dropships touched down in formation, their ramps hissing open. Dominion soldiers stormed out, weapons raised, scanning for threats. Their advanced visors highlighted nothing but rubble and decay. "This place is dead," one soldier muttered. Then the first shot rang out. A plasma round punched through the soldier's chest, dropping him instantly. The Dominion forces scrambled for cover, returning fire in the direction of the attack. But there was nothing there, just empty buildings and long dead streets. Then another shot. Another soldier down. "Where are they?" Vorkish snarled, scanning the horizon. His command visor pinpointed the exact locations the shots had originated from, but each time his troops fired back, they hit nothing but air. The Legion was hunting them. A squad moved into a crumbling structure, sweeping through the shadows. The moment they passed through the doorway, the building exploded. Shrapnel tore through the Dominion ranks, sending bodies flying. Panic spread through the ranks. Something was wrong. The humans shouldn't be this organized. They shouldn't still have working weapons. And yet, they fought like ghosts. From the rooftops, figures emerge. Human soldiers clad in ancient, battle-worn armor, weapons bristling with modifications. Their faces were hidden behind visors, their movements precise and ruthless. They didn't shout. They didn't taunt. They just killed. Vorkish watched in shock as his forces were cut down with terrifying efficiency. The humans didn't fight like desperate survivors. They fought like an army, coordinated, disciplined, and relentless. He gunned down one himself, blasting the human soldier off a ledge. The body tumbled to the ground, unmoving. Then, moments later, Vorkish saw the same soldier again, moving through the ruins, firing without hesitation. His stomach twisted. No, it couldn't be. But as more and more Dominion soldiers fell, only to see the same warriors reappear again and again, the awful realization began to settle in. The humans were not dying. Or if they were coming back. The Dominion's war machine had never faced an enemy like this. Vorkish's troops had superior firepower, energy shields, and decades of combat experience. But none of it mattered. Every time they pushed forward, the humans adapted. Every time they killed a soldier, another took their place, wearing the same armor, carrying the same weapon, fighting with the same precision. The battle spread like wildfire. Dominion squads advanced through the ruins, sweeping buildings with plasma fire, only to find nothing but empty corridors. Then, without warning, the walls would explode inward, and human warriors would pour out like vengeful wraiths. Knives plunged into throats, bullets tore through armored joints. Then the attackers vanished into the shadows before the Dominion could even counterattack. The bodies of fallen humans were nowhere to be found. Vorkish stood in the heart of the chaos, his massive warframe absorbing a barrage of bullets as he cleaved through a squad of human fighters. He crushed one underfoot, blasted another into the rubble with his wrist cannon, and turned just in time to fire a rail spike through the skull of a third. For a moment, silence fell. Then movement. From the smoke, more figures emerged, wearing the same armor, carrying the same weapons. And among them, the ones he had just killed. Vorkish froze. It wasn't possible. It had to be some trick, clones, perhaps. But their movements were too fluid, too familiar. These weren't mindless copies. They remembered. They adjusted their attacks based on his previous strikes, reacting faster, countering better. His soldiers saw it too. Panic spread. The same ones. A Dominion trooper stammered, backing away. The same ones. We killed them. We killed them. Vorkish turned on him, grabbing the soldier by the throat. You will hold the line. The soldier barely had time to nod before a bullet punched through his skull. The Dominion ranks crumbled. Fear turned into disarray as troops began firing wildly, emptying plasma rifles into the same targets again and again, only to watch them rise once more. Above them, something new filled the air. A sound. It wasn't a war cry. It wasn't a scream. It was the steady, rhythmic march of boots on rubble. Vorkesh looked up. Across the ruined cityscape, through the smoke and ash, hundreds of human soldiers advanced in perfect unison. No shouting, no hesitation, just the cold, unrelenting force of an army that refused to die. Then the voice returned, cutting through the Dominion's comms, broadcasting directly into their helmets, filling their ears with words that dripped with finality. Saul's Legion still holds the line, and for the first time in his long, blood-soaked career, Captain Vorkesh felt something he had never known before: dread. Captain Vorkesh stood in the wreckage of his crumbling front line, staring at the impossible war unfolding around him. His forces were superior in every way: firepower, technology, numbers. Yet they were being slaughtered. And the worst part, the enemy never seemed to die. He had witnessed it himself. Dominion snipers confirmed kills with biometric scans, yet the same soldiers kept returning. Not just similar humans, the same ones. They fought smarter each time, learning from past encounters. This wasn't just resilience. This wasn't just discipline. This was something unnatural. Vorkesh activated his command channel. All squads, regroup. We're changing tactics. I want prisoners. We need answers. The surviving Dominion forces adapted quickly. They set up traps, funneled the Legion's forces into kill zones, used overwhelming suppressive fire to disable rather than destroy. After hours of brutal fighting, they finally managed to take one alive. The prisoner was unlike any human Vorkesh had ever encountered. His armor was ancient, battered and scarred from what looked like decades of combat. The visor of his helmet was cracked, revealing sharp, focused eyes that burned with an unsettling intensity. They dragged him into a makeshift command post, a reinforced bunker amid the ruins. Dominion technicians scanned his body, searching for biological anomalies, cybernetic implants, anything that explained his impossible return to the battlefield. What they found made Vorkesh's stomach coil with unease. He's a perfect genetic match to another human we recorded fighting earlier today, the lead scientist muttered. But that soldier was killed. This should be impossible. Vorkesh stepped forward, looming over the prisoner. Explain. The human only smiled. You think you've won something, don't you? Vorkesh grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Enough riddles. Tell me what you are. The prisoner wheezed but didn't struggle. He just laughed. We told you. Saul's Legion never falls. Vorkesh slammed him against the wall. You die, and then you return. How? The human's smile widened, blood staining his teeth. Because we chose to. Vorkesh growled, tightening his grip. I will burn this planet to its core. I will eradicate whatever cursed technology you're using. Tell me what you've done. The human soldier's voice turned calm, almost pitying. You still don't understand. It's not technology that keeps us fighting. It's who we are. Vorkesh stared into those unwavering human eyes. No fear, no hesitation. Only the absolute certainty of a warrior who had died 1,000 times and would die 1,000 more without breaking. Then the alarms blared. Explosions ripped through the bunker. The walls cracked, fire and debris raining from above. The last thing Vorkesh saw before the blast engulfed the room was the prisoner grinning as he whispered, You cannot kill us. Then the world turned to fire. Vorkesh awoke to the taste of blood and dust. His armor's HUD flickered, struggling to reboot as he pushed himself up from the rubble. The command bunker was gone. Nothing but smoldering wreckage remained. His officers were dead. His forces scattered. And the prisoner? Gone. He cursed, pulling himself to his feet as new reports flooded his comms. The humans had attacked with brutal precision, striking key Dominion outposts, supply lines, and communication hubs. Entire battalions had vanished into the ruins, wiped out without a trace. This war wasn't just going badly. It was becoming a massacre. Vorkesh activated his long-range channel, sending a direct message to the Dominion fleet in orbit. Initiate Protocol Exterminus. Now, the response came instantly. Confirmed. Orbital bombardment sequence engage. Impact in 5 minutes. If these creatures refused to die, then he would take their world from them. He would reduce Karen IV to molten slag, burying whatever nightmare technology these humans were using under 1,000 years of fire and ash. But even as he gave the order, a sinking feeling gripped him. Would it be enough? The sky split open as Dominion warships unleashed their fury. High-yield plasma bolts rained down, reducing entire city blocks to molten craters. Shockwaves roared through the ruins, turning towering structures into clouds of dust and debris. The surface of Karen IV burned. And yet, the war did not end. Through the inferno, Legion forces adapted. They abandoned their surface positions, retreating into the labyrinth of tunnels and underground bunkers hidden beneath the ruins. The bombardment could destroy steel and stone, but it could not kill what refused to die. Vorkish's troops, thinking the battle won, advanced once more, only to walk into a new nightmare. Beneath the ruins, the war had only begun. Ambushes erupted from sewer tunnels. Explosives rigged to collapse entire sections of the city swallowed Dominion platoons whole. Automated gun turrets, scavenged from centuries-old human outposts, came online and turned the streets into kill zones. The bombardment had changed nothing. Vorkish watched in disbelief as his forces fell apart, officers screaming into comms that were suddenly filled with static. Then, through the interference, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. Saul's Legion still holds the line. He turned sharply, his instincts screaming danger. From the shadows of the ruins, figures emerged, clad in their battered, unbreakable armor, weapons gleaming in the firelight. One of them stepped forward. The same soldier, the prisoner, alive, unharmed, smiling. "Your mistake," the human said, raising his weapon, "was thinking we fear death." Gunfire erupted. Vorkesh barely had time to react before the world exploded into chaos once more. Vorkesh staggered back as Dominion soldiers were cut down around him. The Legion's attack was merciless. Strike teams emerging from smoke-filled alleyways, demolishing entire squads with terrifying precision. The same soldiers the Dominion had already killed again and again continued to fight, stronger and faster than before. The nightmare had no end. He retreated behind a fallen transport, his mind racing. The orbital bombardment had failed. His best warriors were being wiped out. He needed a new strategy. No, he needed to understand. Gritting his teeth, he activated his command uplink. "Deploy deep scanners. I want every Dominion eye searching for underground structures." The response came seconds later. "Sir, we found something. A massive power signature deep beneath the ruins. Larger than a simple bunker, more like an entire subterranean complex. The heart of the Legion's operation. Their cloning facilities." Vorkish growled. That was the answer. However these creatures were resurrecting, it had to be happening there. He had spent his life breaking worlds, shattering enemies. He would do the same here. "Prepare the Havoc Squad," he ordered. "We're going underground." ###. The tunnels beneath Karen IV were a twisted graveyard of steel and stone. Dominion strike teams moved cautiously, weapons raised, scanning the darkness. They weren't alone. Vorkish could feel it. The unseen eyes, the subtle shifts in the air. The Legion was watching. Then they attacked. Explosions rocked the tunnels as Legion warriors struck from hidden alcoves, their attacks swift and merciless. Dominion forces fired back, but the humans were already gone, slipping into the shadows. One by one, the Dominion's best fell, but Vorkish pushed forward. He had no choice. Then he saw it, a massive chamber, illuminated by the eerie glow of containment tanks. Inside each one, floating in a thick, nutrient-rich fluid, was a soldier. Rows upon rows of identical warriors, their eyes closed, waiting. Not clones. Rebirths. Vorkish stepped forward, scanning the ancient machinery. Data streams flickered on consoles, each one connected to an enormous quantum core at the center of the room. He barely had time to process before a voice echoed behind him. "You finally understand." Vorkish spun, weapon raised. The prisoner stood there. No, not just him. 3 more soldiers stepped forward, identical in every way. Same face, same stance, the same cold, unwavering eyes. "You are no longer fighting men," one of them said. "You are fighting memory." Another stepped closer. "Each time we fall, we rise again, knowing more than before, remembering every battle, every strategy, every kill." Vorkish clenched his fists. "You are slaves to this cycle." The soldiers looked at each other, then back at him. "No," the first one said. "We are bound by something stronger than death." They'd raised their weapons, and Vorkish realized he had not found the heart of Saul's legion. He had walked straight into its hands. Vorkish fired first. His plasma bolt tore through the nearest soldier's chest, punching a molten hole straight through the armor. The body dropped, but before it even hit the ground, another stepped forward to take its place. Same face, same eyes, same unshakable stare. The Dominion strike team opened fire, filling the chamber with plasma and shrapnel. The Legion didn't flinch. For every soldier that fell, another emerged from the shadows, advancing with eerie precision. "This isn't war," one of Vorkish's officers muttered. "It's madness." Then the lights flickered. The consoles sparked. The massive quantum core at the heart of the facility pulsed with energy, its hum growing louder, deeper. And then, Dominion suits started to glitch. A soldier next to Vorkish gasped, dropping his weapon as his visor flooded with distorted data. His armor locked up. His breathing grew ragged. Then, in a slow mechanical motion, he turned his gun toward his own squad. Vorkish didn't hesitate. He shot the soldier in the head. More screams filled the chamber as Dominion warriors convulsed, their systems hijacked by something unseen. Their own targeting systems turned against them. Their own armor became their prison. Some fought it, shaking, struggling. But others stood still, eyes blank. Then they moved. Not as Dominion, as Legion. Vorkish stepped back, disbelief twisting into fury. "No," he growled. "You will not take my men." One of the converted soldiers turned to him, helmet still marked with Dominion insignia, but his voice was no longer his own. "We already have." Vorkish roared, unloading his weapon. The soldier staggered but didn't fall. Another one lunged, blade flashing. Vorkish barely blocked it in time. The Legion wasn't just fighting him anymore. It was absorbing his army. His comms erupted with frantic screams. Reports flooded in from the surface, entire battalions turning against each other, Dominion warships going dark in orbit. The Legion wasn't just defending Karan IV. It was spreading. Vorkish knew what this meant. If this technology reached the Dominion's core worlds, it would be the end. The Legion's consciousness, its war, would infect everything. He had one choice left. "Override Protocol Vindicator," he snarled into his command channel. The fleet's eye hesitated. "Captain, that will." "Do it." A single command pulse fired from his armor, transmitting straight to the orbiting fleet. And every Dominion warship powered up its self-destruct sequence. The sky ignited. One by one, the ships exploded, turning into blinding fireballs that rained debris onto the planet below. A last, desperate attempt to stop the Legion from escaping. The blast rocked the underground chamber. The facility trembled. The containment tanks cracked. Vorkish staggered, breathing hard. He had just wiped out his own reinforcements. His fleet was gone. But then, one of the Legion soldiers smiled. "You don't understand, do you?" Vorkish's blood ran cold. "You're already one of us." Vorkish's grip tightened on his weapon. But he didn't fire. He couldn't. Something was wrong. Inside him. His HUD flickered. His vision blurred. His own armor felt heavier, less responsive, as if resisting his commands. Then the whispers started. Not in his ears. In his mind. Memories that weren't his. battles he had never fought, the sound of boots marching through fire, the feeling of being shot, burned, broken, and rising again. Rising again. No, he snarled, shaking his head. I am Dominion. I am not Legion. The soldiers surrounded him, calm, patient. One of them stepped forward, the prisoner, the man who had haunted Vorkesh since this battle began. You were Dominion, he corrected. Now you are more. Vorkesh's vision twisted, reality shifting like a distorted signal. He saw himself through their eyes, standing in this very room, covered in blood and ash, over and over, countless times before. How many times had he fought this battle? How many times had he died here? His stomach twisted. He stepped back, raising his arm to issue a kill command to his remaining forces, only to watch in horror as his fingers moved without his consent. He wasn't controlling his body anymore. A quiet voice, his own voice, spoke in his mind. Saul's Legion still holds the line. No. He fought, straining, pushing against whatever force had buried itself inside him. He was Vorkesh, captain of the Dominion. He had conquered 100 worlds. He had burned civilizations to ash. He had never surrendered. And yet, when he looked down at his own armor, his Dominion insignia was gone. In its place, the sigil of Saul's Legion. His breathing slowed. His pulse steadied. The fire of resistance inside him flickered, then went out. Vorkesh exhaled, and for the first time, he understood. This was not a war of survival. It was not about rebellion. It was a recruitment, a war that never ended because it never needed to. Those who fought long enough, hard enough, who refused to break, became part of it. The Legion wasn't just human anymore. It had become something else, something greater, something unstoppable. Vorkesh lowered his weapon. He turned his head, feeling his thoughts settle, his mind aligning with something vast, something ancient, something infinite. He met the prisoner's eyes, not as an enemy, but as a brother. The soldier nodded, handing him a fresh rifle. Vorkesh accepted it without hesitation. Outside, the ruins of Karen IV still burned. Dominion forces still fought, still resisted. But resistance was temporary. The battle would end as it always had, the way it always must. One by one, the enemy would fall. And one by one, they would rise again. Saul's Legion still holds the line.